So today we're going to be working on adding fractions with unlike denominators. So if you remember from before, we would have a fraction if they had like denominators. We'd have a problem like this: 2/3 plus 2/3. And we could draw a model of 2/3 where we shade in 2 parts out of 3 plus another 2/3. Shade in, and then we would get a model that looked like this. I have still in thirds 2 parts, one other part from my other one, and then I have this guy left over, so I'd have an extra 1/3, and then this would show us 1 whole and 1/3. And so how we did that was, when we're adding, we just add our numerators and our denominators stay the same, and we simplify that irrational to 1 and 1/3, so it matches our model. However, when we have unlike denominators, our problem's slightly different. So if I had 2/3 plus 1/4, I have something that looks like this: 2/3, shade in 2 out of 3, plus 1/4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts. And here I can't add 2/3 and 1/4 because they're not the same size. So what do? Well, I need to find equivalent fractions. And how I do that is I look for my least common multiple, or my least common denominator, between my two numbers, that 3 and that 4. And so if I remember when I'm making my list of multiples, I write my first 5, because normally I can find it in 5 for our purposes. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2, that is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, times 4 is 12, and times 5 is 15. I'm going to do the same thing over here. 4 times 1, that is 4. If I multiply it times 2, that is 8. 4 times 3, that's 12. 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 times 5 is, of course, 20. And I look and I say, where are my least common multiples? Well, I see a common multiple here on each side, so it looks like it's going to be 12. So I'm going to rewrite my fraction. 2/3 equals how many 12ths? Well, I have this rule: whatever I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. And how I got from 3 to 12, so I multiply it by 4. So again, I have to multiply my numerator by the exact same thing. So I'm going to multiply it by 4. 2 times 4 equals 8. I'm going to do the same thing with 1/4. 1/4, well, how many 12ths is that? My least common multiple. Well, 4 goes into 12 over here. And if I look on my side, that's 4 times 3. Whatever I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. So since I multiplied by 3, I have to multiply my numerator by 3. And 1 times 3 is, of course, 3. So now I can easily rewrite my problem so it is easier to work with. Instead of 2/3 plus 1/4, I can now rewrite them using those common numbers. So 8/12 plus 3/12. And now I can just add, like before, my numerators. 8 plus 3, that is 11, and my denominators stay the same. So my answer is 11/12. So my steps, just to remember or remind myself, if they are unlike denominators, my first step is find that least common multiple. So step number 1 is find the LCM, least common multiple, or least common denominator, since I'm looking at those denominators. Step number 2 is write equivalent fractions. So using that common multiple, what is it that I can do so that they have that same denominator? Step 3, Step number 3 is I add my numerators. And then, if applicable, meaning if it happens, I also need to, for step 4, simplify. Alright, and that is how we solve adding fractions with unlike denominators. It's going to be the exact same thing for subtracting fractions as well.